Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the DM's Book Club, your menagerie of random facts about D&D written in books and then read by people who like books. I am Ryan. I like books, and I like reading about D&D. And I also have somebody here with me who possibly likes books and definitely likes D&D. It's Fee. Hello.
Hello. See, that's seamless. I had to read my first line and then I can't think of a second line. That was seamless. How do you do it? You're a natural improviser. I hate
just
it.
skill.
Just skill.
It's charisma. Yeah. I rolled high. Didn't get very high on wisdom, which doesn't help when it comes to being scammed in life. So, I have a lot of friends, a lot of people taking money from me, but it's all good. How are you? You're right.
I'm good, thank you. I'm still going through the last of my Easter chocolate. My mother sent me because I'm one of those people, as you know, who just buy stuff like that for myself just because I'm like, I can't be bothered. Like you remember the Christmas debacle I had where I was like, I don't have any Christmas decorations. And then you and Sarah, your wife, were like, what? And then suddenly I get a Christmas tree and all this sort of thing, which is lovely. And that was not necessary.
Not have Christmas decorations. That's a terrifying thought. I mean, everyone needs at least a Christmas tree and a copy of Muppets Christmas Carol, because without these things, how is it festive? It's impossible.
Got it right here.
Hey,
that was pointless for people listening to podcasts. But anyway, my mother, so she will pack a huge box of chocolate. And my God, I don't think I've had this much chocolate in maybe about 6 months. And it's become something for every meal. I've currently eaten like 2 rabbits, and now I'm going on to a big chocolate hen, and
it's disgusting, isn't it? The problem with Easter eggs is because they're hollow, they look so big, and then once you actually start eating into them, you start eating them very quickly, and before you know it, the thing's gone, and you're looking at the space that was left by this absence of egg and thinking, oh my God, I am a terrifying gluttonous troll. I should not be allowed out into society. I am disgusting. And actually, you haven't been. It's probably only had about 50 grams of chocolate in the entire 17 feet big thing. But, it's just one of those things that, I totally get you. I don't think I have any Easter chocolate left. And I had a far terrifyingly large amount. I don't know about anybody else, but I have a desk job, which means I work remotely, but I sit at a desk all day. And normally in life, I don't really stack too much. As soon as work starts and as soon as I'm by my desk, I am a machine. I will eat and eat and eat and eat all day. I don't know if it's boredom, stress, eating. I don't know if, boredom eating. I don't know if it's stress eating. I don't know if it's just eating that I've associated with doing my work. I'm not sure. It doesn't burn any calories. It's a desk job. So, but I will get through like 4 bags of crisps and 2 bananas and 2 apples and a pear. And then I'm like, well, I've had my fruit. So now I'm going to have my chocolate. And then it's lunchtime. And I'm like,
the times I've been around to yours when we were doing work from home days, I was like, I just want water and a cup of tea. I don't need several bags of crisps and fruit. What?
I know. Well, the thing is, you kept bringing crisps around. So
I did. I didn't help.
I just assumed that was what you wanted. You're like, well, I don't buy these things for myself. I'm buying them for you. But if they happen to be in front of me, then that's totally fine.
That is the British polite look. Okay, enough. Enough. Talking about eating habits and Easter stuff. Do you want to know what we're talking about today, Ryan?
I will tell you because I'm supposed to be hosting this. So sit back down, Fee.
Whoa.
I will give you the hosting. Cool. So, Fee, would you like to know what we're doing today?
Thank you. Would I like to know? Would you like to know? Yes. So, Ryan, let's talk about player backstories. Those you go, I want to run a campaign, and people go, yes, I have an idea for a character, and you go, great. So just come up with a few sentences, just something to flesh out, just to give me something to bounce off to, and you get a creative assignment back, a little 4-page novel of names of places that definitely don't exist in your campaign until now, and you send it back and you go, oh, very good, 9 out of 10. What's your spelling? But I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for a creative assignment for me to mark. I wanted something just to bounce off, a few little prompts of things. And when we've talked about character creation before, we've talked about, coming up with some like personality ideals, bonds, flaws, etc. That's sort of like, what is it that makes your character you? What makes you stand out as an adventurer compared to a minor character? And it turns out, I think people find it a lot harder than they think. So obviously, behind the scenes, we're going to run Curse of Strahd, and I've sort of said it to people, saying like, you can do whatever you want, just don't overthink it. And turns out people are overthinking it quite a bit.
I'm curious as to where I am in this whole scale. Am I overthinking it, or have I done? I don't think I've done enough, have I?
Oh no, you've done the perfect amount of literally 3 paragraphs with a couple of little details. And the point of this, when you have a backstory,
Good.
yeah, you're like, phew, yeah, this whole episode is about you, Ryan. Look, no, I feel like, I guess, I don't know. So I've always come at characters going like, well, what are the basics that I can have? And then when we're playing the campaign, I can grow on them, I can develop them as they go, because it's a collaboration rather than here is a character that's fully formed per se. Like I remember when we talked about our very first D&D session way back when, and you asked for a reason for us to go somewhere like, at the table. And I was like, I've been invited to this fancy guild. And that was it. And that just spawned off this whole sort of thing, which, you know, weaved back into the backstory of the artificer and having a rival, just something very straightforward. And it's something that, you know, as the DM, you can take off to it. But when it gets to a point where, I guess, depending on the theme of the campaign, whether it's like a gothic horror or a heist or something like that, you need a little bit of tweaking just to fit, like, why would your character be doing this? Or why are they here at this moment, at this time, and this happens to them? So today, I thought we'll do something completely different. Instead of looking at a D&D book or any sort of D&D published materials on how to do it, we're going to look at this book. It is the ultimate RPG character backstory guide, prompts and activities to create the most interesting story for your characters, by James D'Amato.
I have never heard of it. This is an intriguing book.
So it'll be interesting. So James runs a very similar podcast to my own. He runs the One Shot podcast, which takes obviously lots of different systems, and he plays with very famous celebrities and is doing incredibly well in the One Shot series. Not that I'm jealous at all, but what's cool about James is that because he knows so much about these different systems, obviously he's created thousands and thousands of different characters, all for these one-off sessions. And I think this book that he sort of wrote in 2018 just gives a little sample, like things to think about that aren't necessarily like write an essay, just a few prompts here and there. And yeah, I thought we'd just go through a few of them and just pick out some exercises. So, yeah.
Because it is a difficult thing. There is the idea that if you overthink something and you over-prepared, you pigeonhole your character into being so precise that the DM can't actually run with it. It is something that happens. If you turn up with a 4-page backstory, it's fantastic that you thought about it so much and you care about the campaign that much. That will never be taken away. There is always appreciation there, and you would rather have somebody turn up with that than nothing. Yes. Because that's like you can't guarantee somebody's actually willing to engage with your campaign and really get involved with it. So I totally get why people feel like they need to over prepare for these things. But as you say, the more detail you give, the more shoehorned your character is in terms of not just how they deal with the world, but also the things that the DM can throw at you. If you have 15 brothers and sisters, of which every single one is clearly identified and has a role, a name, and a relation, not only can the DM find that overwhelming, but if they wanted to riff and try and come up with something that fits into what they have thought about with their own campaign, because they have their own story that they want to be sort of producing, and it doesn't fit perfectly into your backstory, it might be a bit awkward. You may not use it at all. So, as you say, having open backstory, I have 3 siblings, none of us get on. Yeah, that is like something that you could work with, because then it's like actually you can create it on the fly and be like, oh, your siblings here. Maybe you go, oh no, are they? Who are they?
That's actually a really good example, actually, because again, I appreciate if people haven't seen High Rollers, then that's the thing. But way back in campaign 1, they have a player called Reynard. Is that
Reynard? I was literally just about to say that. Yeah.
And there was a great sort of, when that sort of finished, that campaign, there's a big like sort of Ask Me Anything, and they talked about Reynard's family. So obviously it comes from a very famous line and sort of like rich sort of aristocracy. But Tom, the player, sort of given a few names to Mark, the sort of DM, and hadn't said anything more. And Mark just took it and had some incredible siblings. Like, you know, the big brother was like, Judo! Like that's sort of like big. And you can, when you watch it back, you can see Tom's surprise, but utter joy of that happening.
All he had said is that he didn't get on with his parents, who were overbearing and disapproving of his lifestyle, and he'd left it that and forgotten about it. Yeah, so the first time the father marches in and is like, blah, 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 and like this created character, and he's reacting live and going, I now understand why my character doesn't like his father.
Exactly.
Joy.
Yeah.
Joy to behold. Yeah. No, you're right. It is that perfect line of, you thought enough about who you want your character to be, but you're not being so precise that your DM can't influence it. Because ultimately, there is that analogy of the DM's world is only good as the player's input, and DMs are told a lot to be flexible and to let the characters like influence the world that you're building, because that's how you create a campaign that's memorable and special to you. You know, I've heard you talking about, so Fee's been preparing for Curse of Strahd for a couple of months now, and it's a big book. Like I haven't actually read through it. I've been deliberately trying not to, but like any module, it has a huge amount of information. And if you just play it out of the book as it is, that would be a great campaign. But I've heard Fee talking about how she's going to tweak it in little bits or maybe personalize certain bits. And it's that stuff as the module becomes just warped and changed by what the players are doing, but also the creativity they bring to the table. That's really what makes it memorable, when the campaign is just like, oh, actually that's not how it's written, but this is great because you've taken your own flavor to this, and that's fine. And as you say, if you funnel too much information into it and you find yourself correcting the DM, being that actually, no, that's not that sibling, that's actually this one, or like, oh, that's not what I wrote, and blah, blah, blah. You can take away from that sort of free-flowing experience. It can be a little bit, limited, constrained.
Or disappointment as well. Like if you've got it in your head that you have all them like this, and then it happens, you're like, well, that's not how I imagine it. And that's why I think sometimes when you're writing about your own character, obviously it's like fan fiction. Like you've written it in a certain way, how these are your characters. But if you look back at like the original TV show or book, it's not, that's how one person has interpreted it. So yeah, D&D is that sort of interesting, amazing thing where it's collaborating, and you don't always agree on things. It's always about compromising, and you get a better thing of it. So you have a sort of this group mind meld thing happening. So absolutely. And even, we've had it written in our Xerios campaign very recently, where we've had like sort of references to previous characters from, other campaigns, which, poor David has no idea, but me and Sam were like, because obviously that refers to something that we said 4 years ago, and that stuff like that is what makes the joy of it. And it's just like little snippets here and there. So it's just something to bear in mind as a GM. It's like if you get 5 wonderful essays, don't feel bad about going back to them going, this is great, but you need to truncate it down to bullet points. I think I got to a point with one of the players saying like, this is great. What are the main headlines? What's the stuff I can look at and go, that is your character. Pull out 3 big headlines, essentially.
Yeah, I can just guess who that is. I don't know exactly who that is.
No names.
No exactly the same thing to me, and it was like, oh, hello, yeah. Okay, we're not going to this place for a while because I need to get my head around.
Yeah, I need to put it there. So, Ryan, so we're going to look at this book, so the Ultimate RPG Character Backstory Guide, which I've now said properly. So in this book, what's great about it? So obviously when we are creating characters, we're normally thinking, oh, it's an early on, at least level 1 to 3, etc. But what's great about this book, what James has done, is that you split it up into 3 types. You've got, for humble beginnings, so levels 1 to 7, and then you've got sort of veteran heroes at 8 to 14, and then finally myths and legends, which is levels 15 to 20. And I think that's also an interesting one, because again, maybe for one shots, or if you're wanting to running a more high level campaign, you don't want to get all the guff about like, oh, I'm just starting out an adventure, then you might need to have a think about like, what has this character done previously to make them who they are. They're not starting out with no experience per se. So yeah, so I thought what we'd do is that we'll take like an exercise from each one, and then either you can create it for the same character or for 3 different characters, or we just off the fly just sort of improvise. So you can either choose, or like roll the dice, or pick a number, or I have some suggestions if you fancy it.
Perfect. Should we start from humble beginnings? Like, I feel like that's probably a good place to go.
A good place to start at humble beginnings, yes. So if you wish to pick a number, you've got between 1 and 34 to pick from.
Hello. Well, why don't we go for everyone's favorite 13 then?
Unlucky for some. Okay. Oh, I love the title already. This exercise is called What Drives You Forward? So here is an exercise to help develop the ways in which your core motivations spur your decisions. Answer the prompts to develop deep motivations for your character.
Deep. This is already getting intense.
Cool. So we'll do a couple of these because, again, we don't want to spend too much time on it. So the first prompt is just called Fighting for Your Life. You're at death's door. Your breath is shallow and ragged. Your joints cry and ache. Every physical part of you longs to lie down and rest, come what may. And then the prompt is, what image appears in your mind that inspires you to keep fighting?
Oh, wow. That's a good one to think about, isn't it? So we're making a character right now?
Yeah, we could. Well, if you think of a character you have in mind, or if you're just thinking off the cuff, like what would you say you're thinking of it?
Oh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? I think you'd want to give your character something that was, personal to them, or it's a good way of hinting in some sort of backstory, isn't it? So like a face of a loved one, a parent, or maybe a spouse that had been taken away, or maybe was still alive. A lot of backstories are quite tragic, so maybe it could be somebody who actually is still alive and around. What if your character was just an actual wholesome parent who was going and making a wage and actually did have kids back home and was like, no, I do kind of need to get back to them. So
a family tie. Yeah. And another thing we do talk about, or something I've said about in sort of making characters, is that give us some names of people. So like we said before, like having sibling names and stuff like that, something that ties you to a place or to a responsibility. And as soon as you sort of twang that string, suddenly you're like, oh, no, that's my thing. Yeah, I know it's just a name, but I've twanged it, and so that sort of thing. So yeah, a loved one, a spouse or a child, that could be a really good one. The other one I thought about was maybe if you're in the sort of priesthood or maybe a religion, maybe the face of your God willing you to go on, anything like that. So
yeah. That's quite good. You could even go dark and broody and have like your arch enemy or your rival in some way to like spur you on. This person wouldn't lie down and die. They're probably killing people still. So you better get back up.
They'll take all the glory if you die right now. So you have to keep going.
Glory. That's what I want.
All right. Okay. So the second bit is without a clue. The trailer's cold. Following every clue has led you back to the same place of uncertainty from which you started. You can feel icy dread creeping over you as you consider the possibility of re-examining everything that brought you to this point. So the prompt is, what physical object do you instinctively reach for in this moment? What comfort does it bring?
Oh, well, if you wanted to give your character a little bit of like a nervous tick, it could be something like reaching towards an alcohol flask or something that they like a smoke box to light some sort of cigarette. It could be, if you're thinking like a fighter or a military person, it could be, instinctually reaching towards the sword of somebody that once was, important to you, that's maybe driving you forward in said way. Maybe even like a calling card that was left for you at some point that is clearly the only thing that tells you that there is something deliberate at play here, but none of the other clues have led you to something. So you're like, I've got this still. This must mean something.
Yeah, like I like the idea, like a memento, a bit like a coin. So I think like when you rub it and you're sort of thinking about it, almost like sort of Sherlock Holmes-esque. That really, I like that. That's quite cool. All right, and then we'll go for the final one of this before we move on. We'll do Lost Your Way. In the pursuit of righting wrongs, the line between good and evil has become blurred. You have done things you could never have imagined doing before, but you're not sure if that crossed a line. What words guide you towards your mortal center? And who said them to you?
Or it could be, a relative or some sort of grandparent of importance who maybe was wise, an elder, or just the member of your family that you liked, if maybe your parents weren't necessarily too close to you. It could be, again, your deity, your god, your patron. If you're a warlock, that would be something that would be quite a simple one to put through. Either that, or perhaps, you literally do have a devil on your shoulder. Maybe there's been some sort of demonic presence or devilish presence that's been sort of whispering to you. They talk about a lot of races in, I'm just trying to think through, it's like Volos and through Eberron. There's things like Asimar and Tieflings and I can never remember the name of them, but the creatures that have the connections to the dream plane would be creatures that
yes,
the ones, I mean, it begins with a K of something.
Kalashtar.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. And they have sort of almost spirit guides that aren't really connected to them, but give them feelings and dreams and things. That maybe that could be the thing that like instinctually tells you whether something's right or wrong if you've displeased whatever thing is
like
talking
actually
to you.
having something with you rather than like I said, a distant relative or a distant mentor that's not with you just now. Yeah, I like
actually
that.
there,
yeah. I was thinking, like you said, like some sort of mentors. I was thinking like almost Dumbledore-esque, meeting Harry in the
teacher,
teacher.
expert, yeah.
But who isn't necessarily as perfect as you think. So the exercise again is in the humble beginning. So it's like these are just things to start you off with. You don't have to fill in too much backstory. But again, what you've done is perfect. Like just thought of these little threads and then just kept it short. And I think that is the key thing. Like they've only got space for like 2 lines in each one. So I quite like that as a one.
Oh, is it one of those books where you actually write it into the actual pages?
It is one of those books. And of course I haven't done it yet because I'm not doing that because I need this book.
You embrace writing in books. It's worth it. That's what the book is there for. It's what it's designed for.
No. All right, so we're now going to go on to veteran heroes. That's levels 8 to 14. Now I need you to pick a number between 35 and 70.
Oh, those are some big numbers. Why don't we go for 52?
52.
How many playing cards in a deck? I like that number.
Ooh, okay. So for this one, we've got the exercise which is called Hero's Best Friend.
Oh.
Some adventurers travel with trained animals that work as partners in their quests. A hero with an animal companion relies on it for some tasks, but understands that there are limits to a beast's capability. To create your animal companion, choose its qualities from the following categories and make sure it has an A, B, C, D, and E. So basically, we would just tick something for each one. So we've got the different categories we've got intelligence, or intellect, strength, stealth, sense, and loyalty. We'll just do 3 of those. So if you want to pick from those categories, we can go into them in a bit more detail.
Oh, let's go intelligence. Why not?
Intelligence, intellect. So you have to choose one of these options to create your creature. So we've got, it has a supernatural intelligence. You would not be surprised if it turned out that this would be a great wizard in an animal form. You trust the wisdom of this creature more than you trust most people. It knows what to do in most situations without instructions, and sometimes despite bad instruction. This is a capable and quick learning beast. There are a few commands that it would not be mastered. It is able to master the most rudimentary of commands, but any idea too advanced gets lost easily. And 5, you do not keep this creature for its powerful mind. Its foolishness often causes you both a great deal of trouble. So you've got a nice scale of like really, really powerful intellectual understanding to it gets you into trouble.
I always like the idea of having an animal that's slightly foolish because it gives you more of that sort of present moment. Like it's like a floppy, long-haired Labrador, isn't it? You don't buy a Labrador for its intelligence. You enjoy it for the fact that it smiles at people and like it's just real trouble. So I like that idea. I'm always reticent as a player to have something that is like gets you into trouble because it's like a mechanic of like, oh no, player X has their dogs run into the tavern again and has alerted all of the guards and what japery we're in this week. So I'm always aware of having like that sort of character. But I mean, saying that though, you could go for a supernatural like cat, for instance. I'm thinking Sabrina.
Salem,
Witch.
yes.
Oh, that's the one.
Cool.
I mean, that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Just a real snarky, clever cat. There's I just reread a few weeks ago. Did you ever read Sabriel?
The bells,
Garth Nix book with the bells, yeah. And there's a cat called Mogget who's really, really sarcastic and
sarcastic and evil though. That's
but like really clever and is utterly compelled to help the abortion, the main character. So they can't help themselves, they have to help, and they're really pissed off by that.
I like that a lot. I think going back to what you say about the foolish creatures that will get you into trouble, I think that's on the DM to an extent to be like, okay, how much of the limelight does it take away? Because ultimately, when you're thinking of doing sessions and stuff, obviously players will talk for ages, plan, and then it doesn't work out. Or they'll do something and you know it's not going to work, but you let them do it. I think stuff like this, when there's an animal involved or something that's like not necessarily under the control of the creature, it is up to the DM to be like, okay, if you're stealthing somewhere and that someone rolls a natural 1, that creature gets distracted. That's the sort of the critical fail. That's what happens. And ultimately it can be forgot about it. I think like in Critical Role, for example, Jester has various different animals that suddenly she remembers about, even though they've probably been dead for several. And it's just nice because obviously all the players are like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore that you're remembering all these creatures. And then similarly in the first campaign, I guess it was a bit more of a bigger thing, wasn't it, when he had a Trinket, this massive bear, and they're like, how are we going to get this bear up the mountain? And then they figure it out by going, right, here is a Pokeball necklace that you can keep Trinket in. So there's always ways you can get around it, I'd say. So I guess when you're creating, if you have an animal companion, you don't need to worry about it too much, but it's quite nice to have like that connection, I guess, and to do something like that. So which one are you thinking of then? Foolish, high intelligence?
Let's go foolish.
Foolish. All right, so that's then E. Cool. All right, so then we've got strength, stealth, sense, and loyalty.
Okay, sense. Why not sense?
Sense. Okay. So your 5 options are: you think this creature may possess some kind of supernatural gift for detection. It seems to anticipate events before they begin to unfold. It's capable of finding valuable information without great effort. To call it impressive would be an understatement. So that's option 1. Even for creatures of its type, this beast has impressive senses far beyond those of any humanoid. Like most creatures, some of its senses are sharper than a human's, but others are considerably weaker. It's good for specific circumstances. 4, it has one strong sense that allows it to function, but you wouldn't dream of setting it a task like tracking or watch. And then finally, perhaps due to age or injury, this creature lacks key senses. It is only barely functional under the best conditions. You must act as its eyes and ears at all times. It relies on you.
I mean, that is hilarious, but let's go for, I like the idea of getting something that's like good at a purpose, but isn't totally like game breaking. So yeah, like the middle option. So it's something that's got a few really good skills, but for specialized tasks.
Sharper than a human's, but considerably weaker in other things.
Exactly.
Cool. And we'll do one more. You've got strength, stealth, or loyalty.
Let's go loyalty.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go for loyalty. All right. So now you have a bond between you and this creature is unbreakable. It would endure any trial to remain at your side. This creature will protect you and the things you care about with dauntless determination. There are few beings, living or dead, that you would rely on more than this creature. It sees you as family with an intensity deeper than anything possible in the natural world. Its loyalty is only limited by its capability. You have a close bond with this creature, but it is limited by instinct. There are some circumstances in which animalistic self-preservation outweighs training. Still, in most circumstances, it can be relied on. 4, you have a working relationship with this creature, but there are some areas in which you have distinct trouble. It heeds you, but it knows you offer food and stability, and it can be swayed by an opportunistic instinct. And then finally, calling this creature actively treacherous is probably going too far. Probably. You're still able to work with it, but it has constant behavioral problems, and you get the impression that if you let your guard down, it could turn on you.
Oh, I like something that's loyal. I wouldn't go loyal to the extent that it would like throw itself into fire, but definitely something that's like sees you as family.
Okay, so you've gone for B. Cool. And then you do the other ones as well. So you've got, I guess from that, so you've got a creature that's foolish to an extent. That's all right. Then you've got a sharp senses, so it's pretty average. And then, but it is so loyal. It is like family. So I quite like that. I get that you've already got that in your sort of head if you were like a ranger or you had some sort of animal companion in some way. It's got a distinctive personality compared to like, I now have a panther. It attacks. So yeah,
exactly. My panther will it'll look after me, but it's a bit dopey, so I don't really set it too many jobs apart from sticking with me.
Because you don't want it to just suddenly turn on you at the last minute as a panther.
No, definitely not.
All right, so we'll then move on finally to myths and legends. So these are for player characters at level 15 or 20. And you have to pick a number between 71 and 100.
71 and 100. Let's go right to the top. Let's go 99.
99. Ooh.
This is interesting, because as I say, in our campaign that we run privately, they've all just hit level 15, and I don't think they've realized just what a step that is.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. Okay, so the final exercise is called Not Looking to Get Merlined. Taking on Apprentice can be a life-changing event. Some masters gain new knowledge, personal fulfillment, and a meaningful relationship. Others get sealed in a tree. And then there is... Wow. There is a list of actions to be taken by your apprentice. If you find the action suspicious, tick its box. And at the end of the exercise, you can determine whether you trust the apprentice or not and roll a D100 to find out what happens. So I guess we'll just go through them in order and just say suspicious, not suspicious, and then just add, you just basically just do a tally of suspicious at the end, I guess.
Okay.
All right. So you are approached by a young person who wishes to become your apprentice. Is that suspicious to you or not suspicious to you? No. All right. Almost immediately, she impresses you with her skill and knowledge.
That seems fair. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sought me out.
She is undeniably attractive.
Oh, I don't think that's suspicious. People can be who they are. I'm a high-level character. I'm above these things.
She is eager to help with even the most unpleasant of tasks in your routine.
Well, I mean, that is what she's kind of there for. So no, I'm not suspicious yet. This is fine.
This is fine. Okay. Her enthusiasm makes you feel a little guilty tasking her with difficult chores.
Oh, would that be suspicious? Suspicious is the wrong word, isn't it? No, it's more guilt. No, not suspicious.
Not suspicious. Wow. She shows talent and progresses quickly throughout basic lessons.
No, so far so good. It's a good apprentice.
You're just very trusting, Ryan, I think. She asks questions about your abilities and techniques that just about anyone could have heard of through stories.
Oh, see, that is suspicious because, she's been doing really, really well. So why is she asking really obvious questions?
She follows those questions up with insightful follow-ups that demonstrate a keen understanding of the subject.
No, that's again, that's what I expect.
That's
more. I'm more concerned about the simple questions.
Okay. Her line of questioning begins to flirt with forbidden/privileged information without actually crossing the line.
Oh, yes, that's suspicious.
That's suspicious. Yeah. All right.
Know your place.
She reacts with an apology and surprise when you turn the conversation away from dangerous topics.
No, if she's crossed the line and she knows about it, that's fine. That's what I'd expect.
She becomes an undeniable asset to your work.
That's, again, her purpose.
You sneer at the thought of doing things that were so much more difficult before you took on an apprentice.
Again, that's the point of it.
You find her diligently studying an advanced technique you did not personally teach her.
Oh, that would be suspicious. Where did you get that information from?
She reacts with surprise when she discovers you were watching.
Oh, because she thinks she was secret? No, I mean, yeah, why would you be watching somebody? No, that's fine.
She reacts with disappointment when you insist she keeps to your prescribed syllabus.
Again, yeah, I mean, that's suspicious. Yeah, why is she going off? Who knows?
She risks her life to protect something precious to you.
No, that's her job.
Wow, I see this happening. You get an apprentice now. I see what happens.
Exactly. Yep. On you go, on to the fire.
She is seriously wounded in the process.
That's not suspicious. That's just like a traumatic event.
She apologizes profusely for what almost happened.
And so she should.
You spend long weeks nursing her back to health.
That's not suspicious. No, that's fine. That feels like a good thing to do.
In that time, it becomes clear that her dreams and ambitions are quite close to your own.
She's been taught by me, so you'd hope so.
What attracted to you initially is underscored by her passion and dedication to ideas that you hold sacred.
Again, two people who are doing the same thing like the same things. That's fair.
She thanks you for your care with tearful earnestness.
Not suspicious, no.
She has the most captivating eyes you have ever seen.
What is this book trying to imply?
I don't know.
No, that's not suspicious. That's just who somebody is.
She resumes her studies with commendable diligence and makes up for lost time.
So she should. I've had to look after her for weeks.
Yeah. You notice a change in her demeanor. She has difficulty focusing on certain tasks and has trouble meeting your eyes.
Oh, suspicious. She's carrying some sort of long-term injury.
After an emotional and difficult day of training, you confront her about her behavior.
That's not suspicious. That's fair.
She tries to object and becomes flustered.
No, that's fine. I would do that if a boss started telling me off.
I can't believe I'm reading this line. She confesses she has fallen in love with you.
I mean, that's not suspicious. I'm glorious.
You cannot deny that some part of you returns these feelings.
That would be suspicious.
It's
I'm
beneath
professional.
You. Professional, yes. Life returns to a better sort of normal, and you're able to share secrets with an easy trust.
No, that feels like, just as I say, somebody is just becoming a part of your life.
Both of you reach new levels of understanding as masters of your craft and as people.
It was always destined that I was going to be brilliant at whatever I did, so that's fine.
You feel comfortable sharing forbidden knowledge that you would not trust another soul with.
I am a gossip. That's fair.
She takes in information with solemn dedication.
Solemn dedication?
Solemn dedication, yeah.
Oh, blimey. Oh, she's now depressed about it. No. Again, maybe I'm just too trusting. This all seems fair. This all seems fine.
She plans a romantic outing in the forest.
There's a romance now, is there? Dear, oh dear. I mean, that is suspicious, yes. I don't like forests.
You arrive to find a picnic set up under a tree. A very large tree.
A very large tree. No, okay. No, that seems reasonable. You've picked a good little destination for a picnic.
There is a note that reads, "I will join you soon, my love. Please sit and enjoy yourself whilst you wait for me."
Oh, that is suspicious. Why is she not here? Why she left the picnic? Bears could be at it.
The basket is unopened and calls to you ominously.
Oh, well, I'll have a look inside. I'm maybe a bit hungry.
Not suspicious, okay.
No.
Penultimate one. The day is gentle and sweet. The ideal conditions for passion.
Yes, that's deeply suspicious. That's the weather. No, that's fine. Okay,
and then finally, you hear soft footsteps from the other side of the tree.
I mean, it's not deeply suspicious. I'm a wizard. I feel fairly safe in my abilities to keep myself protected. This is where I probably get killed. So this is one of those things.
Cool. All right. So that's all the questions. Add up the number of boxes that you said were suspicious. So how many did you have in total?
That is a good question. I may not have been keeping track.
Let's. It's fine. I vaguely was, because most of them were not suspicious. So I think
most of them weren't. It was less than 10, wasn't it?
I think it was between like 3 or 5. I think it was quite low. You're just saying.
Let's say 5.
Let's say 5. Cool. All right. And as we multiply that by 5, so that is 25.
Okay.
That number is your suspicion. Decide in a moment if you trust your apprentice. So do you trust your apprentice?
Yes.
Okay. Roll a D100 and determine what happens based on your trust or distrust.
Okay, D100. That is an 89.
89. So you've rolled over your suspicions from the trust. Your apprentice has always been worthy of your love and trust. The basket contains a ring that she will use to pledge her love to you. And that is there you go.
Well, there you go. You see, it's always good to trust. I'm curious to see what would happen if I would have rolled under.
I will tell you. Where's it gone? 99.
It turns out she is a bugbear. And
you rolled under your suspicion. You missed the key red flags that bards will name as they sing about your folly years from now. If it's any consolation, you're unlikely to hear those songs from inside the tree.
Oh dear.
So again, that's something a little bit different. Something like, again, because now you've built up this character, like you again, how you thought of yourself in your head compared to this other person who then became your apprentice, and making that relationship between them. So very interesting where you got there, and a little story at the end.
There you go. That's fine. I'm just clearly not suspicious enough.
Well, it worked out fine, so I don't see what.
There you go. Trusting. Typical Hufflepuff. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I assume that gives you a good backstory as to like your high-level wizard now has an apprentice, and that's kind of how they go about things.
Yeah, in the previous ones, obviously something to drive you forward. Like if you're thinking of like certain situations where you are in level 1, so from a humble beginning. So obviously like what do you do? What drives you on to you don't stop fighting, you don't die, and then creating like an animal companion sort of mid-level. If you're thinking about rangers or anything like that, just picking up an animal, like having that bond between them. So I think quite a lot of these exercises do rely on, it's interesting, I guess, because we always think about, creating a backstory for your own character, but actually it involves the connections between other people and whether or not, how much do you flesh it out? Because we did that all in like half an hour. And now we have 3 separate sort of stories that can be used anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you can always come up with this sort of stuff later down the line as well. You don't have to do it all at the beginning. You can leave large chunks of your life open, and then the DM comes to you and goes, "Oh, by the way, where did you go to school? Where did you learn your arts? Or that time you went on holiday to another continent, what happened there?" And you can add these things in later down the line.
Absolutely. And just looking at some of the stuff, like in ones we didn't go, there's stuff like idioms, like you come up with an idiom or a catchphrase for your character. Holidays. So if you're thinking of anything special that you want to say, like, something that's not celebrated here, what could it be? And finders keepers, like you find a fallen adventurer, like what do you take from that adventurer? Do you take any of the gold and stuff, which most people tend to do? It's just some ways of thinking about a character, about maybe a specific sort of like exercise or a specific thing that's not necessarily like, I was born here. All my life, I've always wanted to be an adventurer. It's like, that's boring. Let's think of something else and create those bonds to other characters that then could be used later on. So yeah.
Exactly. It's really cool. There you go. So now we have a high level character with a pet, some sort of motivation, and an apprentice. Maybe all the same thing. You never know. It was never specified that Bruce the guinea pig is actually the reason I fight and who I trained as a wizard. There we go.
Bruce. Oh, bless. the foolish guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly.
But forever loyal. I like that.
Forever loyal. Exactly. Would never trap me in a tree, that Bruce. Well, there you go. No, that was really, really awesome. So, as I say, it sounds like a very good book. Is that, I assume, available from most good D&D bookshops and Amazon-based services?
Well, very, very good. They're smooth, seamless. Yes, you can get that pretty much anywhere. I think most friendly local game stores will have them. Waterstone's also a good option if you have that. Barnes & Noble if you're in the US. But yeah, pretty much. And he does have another book, which conveniently is not to hand, but it's about gameplay and how to like role play better if you're struggling with it. I think it's like the greatest gameplay book ever that came out very recently. So I can recommend those. But yeah, just for something a little bit different. There's some creative exercises early in the morning just to get our brains for the day.
Brilliant. My brain is frazzled and it is utterly knackered, and I'm going to go through my day just thinking of why that apprentice was suspicious, because clearly I missed some signs somewhere along the line. But there we go. So what are you up to at the moment? Where can we find you outside of creating D&D backstories?
When I'm outside creating backstories, or just I'm doing a very less successful one-shot podcast version.
Oh, it's doing very well, I'll have you know.
It's doing okay. I run the What Am I Rolling podcast, a twice-monthly RPG one-shot podcast. There's a couple more episodes coming out. We've got The Land of Eam, which is like an Adventure Time-esque high fantasy game coming out, which is good fun. Really enjoyed running that. I'm going to commit myself to this now. There's a game called Field of Memories, which is like a solo journaling game where your mentor, a doctor in her field of like advanced biology, just think David Attenborough, but with like supernatural creatures, has mysteriously gone missing and has been declared dead after 5 years. And you're trying to get her collection, the sort of access to her papers, because she was your mentor, and having that sort of like, the mourning and loss of those sort of things, which it's been quite good. I've only done 1 page so far. I'm going to have to do another 20 at some point. I'll fix that round. And because I forgot to say it in the last episode, we do have a code for your friendly local game store, Third Space Gaming. You get 10% off at checkout if you use the code DMBC on any of the products on your first order, which is super fun.
It's very exciting, isn't it? It feels like something that's way too advanced for us humble book readers. It's very cool.
What about you, Ryan? What are you plugging? What are you selling? What you up to, man?
Well, what are you after, really? I've got a bit of everything. Bit of this, bit of that.
Buying, bit of selling.
I am going through life trying to find time to edit. Seems to be my my problems at the moment. I've got a YouTube channel, UrsaRyan, which I am very enjoying, but like any project is spiraling out of control and takes more and more of your time up as you go through life. So that's always good fun. But you can come and say hello on there, leave a comment. I'll see it, and I'll say hello.
See it and selectively reply back if it's a good enough comment. Yeah, I see.
If you mention that you've come from the DM's book club, I will certainly reply to that, because I will be like, oh, that's cool. I just ignore anything Fiona puts. Actually, let's face it, she doesn't watch my videos. I don't think you've watched a single one. They're boring.
I did when I was in them,
only when I was putting the D&D stuff up, yeah.
Because that's our brand anyway. But yeah, I mean, you've got like a load of other people watching them and commenting them like on Reddit and stuff. So you don't need me.
Apparently posts have been going up on Reddit about my stuff, and I didn't even realize that was a thing. I was like, yeah, cool.
No,
that's
awesome. Me neither. We probably should start doing that for this, but I can't be bothered. That's another outlet I need to monitor.
Honestly, the amount of time this all takes up to do just begins to spiral after a while. There's only so much you can do.
Exactly.
Well, that was really good fun. I will genuinely take that stuff away, and I'll maybe even have a look and see if I can get the book. But until that point, we will all see you in the next episode, which conveniently is probably about to start now if you are behind on listening and you've been going through the back catalogue. So I'll see you in approximately 1 jingle's time. Goodbye.
Goodbye. What?